Hey, what's up everybody? Will Mosby here, back with yet another video. And in this video I'm going to show you how to make any size custom cabinet carcass. Custom cabinet carcass. Custom cabinet carcass. Custom cabinet carcass. That's hard to say. Let's go. Alright, so these are all of the carcasses and cabinets. Yes, and they are finished, right? Well, this one I still haven't, I've got the door, I just haven't put it on yet. And I still have to make a drawer down there for that one. But everything has been face framed. And you can see here the doors for these right here. But the process for making the cabinets, all of these, right? That's one. This is a large one. That's another small one that matches up with that one. This is a different size one, a different size one, and then the large one. And then this down here actually is a drawer that has a step on it. Pretty cool. Oh, and not only is it a drawer, it lifts up. Yeah, that's cool. All right. But no matter what the size is, the process for all of these was exactly the same, and that's what I'm here to show you how to do. It's not that difficult. Without further ado, let's jump into the build process, and I'll show you how to build any size custom cabinet carcass without any trouble at all. Here we go. All right, so the first thing that we want to do is cut all the sides to our carcass. And I definitely recommend, if you're going to be doing cross cuts of long pieces, to use some styrofoam so you don't cut in or dig into your table. And I'm using a 4x8 sheet of 3/4 inch whitewood plywood that is great for cabinets and it's great for painting. And I got it from Lowe's, and I had them cut it down to size because it's easier to transport that way. And since I don't have a track saw, I'm just using a guide that kind of clamps on. But you got to be sure to get your measurements correct where your saw is going to run up against it, because your cabinets and your carcasses have to be exact. So I will double check my measurements a few times. And what I'm doing is I know exactly the measurement of how far over the blade is to the guide on the saw itself. So I know that that is 1 1/8 inches. So I'm setting up that guide to be 1 1/8 inches over from my line that I want to cut. And here's a better view of it. Now there's a bunch of ways to join boards together, but I didn't want to face nail or face screw in or see the screws on the face side of the carcass. So what I decided to do was make a rabbet joint, and so I have to set up my router here to be able to cut that rabbet joint out, where the other piece of 3/4 inch ply is going to come in and sit up against it. And I'm using a 3/4 inch straight bit that is at a depth of 1/2 inch to make my rabbet joint. All right, so here I'm working on the right side, and this is the top of the right side. And this video is sped up 600%, so it does take a little while to actually route out these rabbet joints. You want to go nice and slow. So now I'm going to route out the groove for the bottom of the carcass, and you might notice it sits about 1.5 inches up from the floor. So when I go to put my face frame on, the face frame will sit flush with this bottom piece. All right, so one of the things I have to deal with in a tiny house and making these carcasses for like cabinets and the stairs is the wheel well. So I already you know, in a previous video, I already boxed in the wheel wells, which made it nice and square, or what I thought was nice and square. It really wasn't that square, but I did the best that I could. But a nice thing that I did is I took some cardboard from the cabinets, just cut it out, and I made the template of the actual wheel well that I'm going over. So all I have to do is line up each corner. This is actually flat along the floor, so just line that up with my board here, flat along the bottom, line up the other side, draw my pencil line, and there I've got the perfect cutout for the wheel well. So we're going ahead and do that, and I'm just going to freehand it using my little handy skill saw here. By the way, another thing that I do is I have my cut piece on top of a 1.5 inch styrofoam, just a rigid styrofoam. That really helps so you don't ding your table up or anything like that, even though I don't care if the tabletop gets dinged up too bad. This is real easy to replace. But we're just going to use some styrofoam, raise it all up. And with that saw, I'm not going all the way in. I'm going just right up to the point, and then I'm going to take the jig and cut out the rest. Now I could have used the pull saw to do that, but just real easy, just use the jig, and there's our piece. All right, so now that we have our wheel well section cut out, the last thing to do before putting everything together is I have to route out the 1/2 inch section for our back panel. So everything else is 3/4 inch, but the back panel I'm making that 1/2 inch, and I'm just going to route that out because that's going to give it a little place to kind of sit in so it's not sticking out too far on the back. So what I do is I just take the tape measure, come up a 1/2 inch, make a mark, come up a 1/2 inch, make a mark, and then just take my framing square, connect those two dots, and draw a line between them. Now I know that that line right there is a 1/2 inch away. So I need to now establish a fence for my router so it can be pushed up against it. So I already know what my distance is because I've done it so many times, that the router needs to sit back. I don't know if you can see it, yeah, on the camera. It was so cold in here, I had to move my propane heater in here, and that's really helping out. Now, I don't have the garage fully closed. There's a little opening over there, so I'm not getting gassed out. I can look over here and find out, and line it up pretty close right there, and make a mark. But it's not at basically the equator of our circle here for the router. So I'm just going to take a measurement of where that border is. And it's 2 5/8. So I'm going to move, I'm going to make a line at 2 5/8. Same thing here. So, but I'm going 2 5/8 from our line that we just drew. 2 5/8 from the line that we just drew. And that's where I'm going to set my fence. If you don't have a fence, just use a nice straight piece of board. You got to have it straight. All right, so we've got our fence established at 2 5/8 away from the line that we just drew. My router bit is a 1/2 inch router bit, and it is a 1/2 inch from the guide plate. So it's going to cut in a 1/2 inch to marry up with the rest of the router cuts that I've made already. So let's just take a little practice cut here. just to see if we're lined up correctly. So we're not going to go all the way, we're just going to start it and see where we're at. And I'm just a hair too far in. So I'm going to move my fence out just a little bit. About a 1/16 is all I was off. Let's make another small pass and see where we're at. And that's spot on. So yeah, we're good. I'm gonna lock the table down because there's a lot of pressure. So when I built this table, I put brakes on it, so which is nice. There's a lot of forward pressure by the router being pushed up against the fence, so the table wants to slide just a little bit. And you don't want to go fast with this. This is something it's going to go real slow. Now, whenever I play the video, I'm going to speed it up in time, but I'm really going fairly slow with this bit. And you might see it kind of run off just a little bit. I'm trying to prevent that from happening, so I'm really kind of holding a lot of pressure down on the router, preventing that runoff from happening. Here we go. Now it looks pretty good. Let's get a test piece and we'll put it in there and see what it looks like. Oh, another thing that I just did is I'm running this way. The way that the blade is spinning and kicking out sawdust that way, it's going clockwise, so it's helping me pull against the grain of the wood here. Actually, I'm running with the grain of the wood, so it's helping me pull with it, but which also makes it want to run away from you. So just really put a lot of pressure down and push against the fence and go nice and slow. That took me, you know, that's less than 24 inches right there. And that probably took me in real time about a minute to a minute and a half to cut that little 24-inch piece. So I was going pretty slow. All right, so here's our little test piece. And we look right on the money. So I just cut right up to the line where I drew my line. And that is absolutely perfect. So now, what we're going to do is cut our actual piece that is going to be our back to our carcass here from this corner to that corner. Let's do it. All right, so now I'm going to be cutting the 1/2-inch ply for the back panel of our carcass, our cabinet carcass. So just going to use the skill saw handsaw again. But I set up a different type of fence, same kind of fence I used for the router, just to show you a different variable instead of using a guide, which I don't have a track saw. So this works just as good. Just set up a nice fence, get your measurement exactly where I'm going to be cutting on this side of the line. So I went ahead and checked my blade where I'm at, and I'm lined up perfect all the way down, took that measurement, and basically drew 2 dots and connected the with my straight edge here, connected those 2 dots and clamped them down. So now we're ready to cut. Just like that. All right, so now that we have all of our pieces cut, we're going to, we can start the assembly. So I'm going to use glue to glue them up, and then we're going to use screws as well. But I also like to use my little brad nailer just to kind of hold things in place. And these handy dandy little clamps, 90-degree clamps, just to give a little extra helping hand. So let's start in. The first piece that I'm going to work on is we're going to grab, this is the left side, and this is the top. I'm going to put these 2 together. Test fit them real quick. And we're good, okay? So we can start. That'll hold it so I can go get some screws in. And of course, I forgot my screws and the drill. Hold on. All right, so got all the pieces cut, and I ran out of battery making the other one, so I just decided to make one of the smaller carcasses for the stairs here. and the process is still the same. So what have I done so far? So we made our left and our right pieces. This is the left right here. This is the top, the bottom. This is the front of it, and this is our back side. And I routed out a 3/4 inch groove along the bottom that is 1.5 inches from the floor, because I'm going to have some 1.5 inch trim that goes on the front side of this. This one on here at the top is where our top piece comes in, and it's just going to fit right in here. So now why don't we just go ahead and start putting these all together. And this type of plywood has two sides to it. A fairly smooth side, and this is great for painting, not great for staining, but I'm going to be painting this carcass anyway. So I'm just going to put this in place. I'm going to go ahead and stand it up. I'm going to leave it just like that and nail from this side. I'm not going to screw in from the other side, because this is a step, and you would actually see those nail holes and screw holes if I was to nail from this side going this way. So we're just going to nail in this position, make sure everything lines up. And this is not structural. This is just to hold it in place until I screw it in. All right, that'll hold that. And now we can get our screws into our screws. I'll move the camera so you can see it. Now I'm just going to countersink them just a little bit. I'm using 1 5/8 screws, just typical. Not overpowering it, not trying to drive them way in, just flush with the surface is all I want. All right, so that's that. Yeah, so since this is our top, it's going to be sitting like this over the wheel well on that side, and this is going to be our tread. So there is going to be another piece of wood that goes over the top of this that dresses it all up, and that's our tread. All right, so now we're going to put up the right side. So this is the right side of the stair. And I'm out of nails. Kidding me? Trying to get this part right here dead flush, because this is the front. This will not get seen. This side won't get seen, and this side won't get seen because it's butted up against two other carcasses. All right, last screw to do. One good thing to do is come over and mark where this is, because I don't know exactly where it is. I know it's 1.5 inches, but just mark it right there. Makes it nice and easy. That way you'll hit the middle of the board. There we go. So that's top, bottom, left and right sides. Last thing to do is the very back. And that's a 1/2 inch piece that just sits right there. there it is. There's the carcass. All right, that's it for this video. Hopefully you found it helpful, and now you can feel confident that you can go out and build your own custom cabinet carcass if you need to. Always the rule is just take your time, measure twice, cut one time. All right, we'll see you in the next video.